Most people think perpetuals and futures are just about longing when the price goes up and shorting when it goes down. But they still don't understand concepts like leverage, margin, liquidation, funding rates, or why traders actually get liquidated. So in this video, I'm going to explain futures and perpetuals from scratch in the simplest possible way. In spot trading, you actually buy the asset. For example, Bitcoin is trading at 100k. You buy one Bitcoin. You now own that Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes to 110k, you profit. If it goes down to 90k, you lose money. Simple. Futures are different. In futures trading, you don't actually buy the Bitcoin itself. Instead, you are trading a contract whose value follows Bitcoin price. You are trading exposure to the price movement of Bitcoin. That's the most important thing to understand. In spot, you own the asset. In futures, you own a contract based on the asset's price. A futures contract is simply an agreement between two sides. One side believes the price will go up and the other side believes the price will go down. Let's say Bitcoin is at 100k. You believe the price will go up, so you open a long position. Someone else will take the opposite side of that trade. If Bitcoin price rises, you profit, they lose. If Bitcoin price goes down, they profit, you lose. The exchange sits in the middle and manages everything. A long position means you expect the price to go up. For example, Bitcoin is at 100k. You open a long position. Bitcoin rises to 105k. You make profit. A short position means you expect the price to go down. Let's say Bitcoin is at 100k. You open a short position. Now Bitcoin is at 95k. You make profit. This is one of the biggest differences between spot and futures. In spot, most people make money when the price rises. In futures, you can potentially benefit from both directions. Now we get to the most important concept, margin. Margin is simply collateral. Let's say you want exposure to 100k worth of Bitcoin, but most people don't have 100k sitting in their trading account. So instead of paying the full amount, the exchange allows you to make a smaller deposit called margin. The margin acts as a security deposit for your position. Everything in futures trading is built on top of the concept of margin. Now let's understand what is leverage. Leverage allows you to control a larger position using a smaller amount of capital. The formula is simple. Position size is equal to margin into leverage. For example, you deposit $1,000 as margin and use 10x leverage. Now you are controlling a position worth $10,000 by just depositing $1,000. But your profits and losses are now calculated on the full $10,000 amount. This is why leverage is powerful, but also why it's dangerous. Leverage amplifies both profits and losses. Let's say Bitcoin rises 5%. Without leverage, you make 5%. But with 10x leverage, you make 50% gain. Sounds great, but the reverse is also true. If Bitcoin falls 5% against your position, you roughly lose 50%. Beginners focus on amplified profits, but they forget about amplified losses. This is where most traders get wiped out. Remember, you only deposited a small amount as collateral, and the exchange cannot allow your losses to become larger than that collateral. So when your losses get too close to your margin amount, the exchange automatically closes your position. This is called liquidation. Let's use a simple example. You deposit 1k as margin and use 10x leverage. You are now controlling a position worth $10,000. If the market moves 10% against you, your total loss is $1,000 and your entire margin is gone. The exchange force closes your position and you get liquidated. Liquidation is not a punishment, it's simply risk management. The liquidation price is the price at which your margin becomes insufficient and your position gets closed automatically. The higher your leverage, the closer your liquidation price gets. For example, at 2x leverage, you have a large safety buffer. The market can move significantly against you before liquidation. At 50x leverage, even a tiny move against your position can liquidate you. That's why high leverage is extremely risky. There are two ways to manage risk in futures. The first one is isolated margin. Let's say you have $10,000 in your account and you open a trade with $1,000 isolated margin. If the trade goes wrong, only that $1,000 is at risk. The rest $9,000 remains untouched. The second one is cross margin. In cross margin, your entire account balance supports the position. So if losses increase, the exchange can add additional amount from your account to keep the position alive. The advantage is that liquidation is further away. The disadvantage is that a bad trade can potentially damage your entire account. That's why many traders prefer isolated margin for better risk control. Traditional futures contracts have an expiry date. The contract eventually ends. There are weekly, monthly, and quarterly futures. When the expiry date arrives, the contract settles. Your profit or loss is calculated and the position closes. That's how traditional futures work. Perpetuals are simply futures contracts with no expiry date. That's it. Everything else remains almost identical. You can long or short, use leverage, use isolated or cross margin, and also can get liquidated. The only major difference is that there is no expiry date for your position. You can theoretically hold a perpetual position forever as long as you have enough margin and don't get liquidated. Now here's an interesting problem. Traditional futures move towards the spot price because settlement is approaching, but perpetuals never expire. So what actually keeps the perpetual price close to the spot price? That's where funding rates come in. Funding rate is a payment directly exchanged between longs and shorts. The exchange doesn't keep this money. It goes from one side of the market to other, and its purpose is simple. Keep the perpetual price close to the spot price. Let's say Bitcoin spot price is 100k and the perpetual contract is trading at 102k. This usually means a lot of traders are long. To balance things out, funding becomes positive. Now longs must pay shorts. This makes holding long positions more expensive. Some longs close positions and more traders open shorts. And the perpetual price gets pushed back towards the spot price. Positive funding means longs pay shorts. Now imagine the opposite. Bitcoin spot price is 100k, but the perpetual price is 98.5k. Too many traders are short, funding becomes negative. Now shorts must pay longs. This encourages traders to open longs and reduces excessive shorting, and the perpetual price moves back towards the spot price. Negative funding means shorts pay longs. Let's say you open a 100k long position and the funding rate is 0.01%. Your funding payment becomes $10. So every funding interval you pay $10 to shorts, even if Bitcoin doesn't move at all. This is why funding matters, especially for large positions. So here's the simple difference between futures and perpetuals. Traditional futures have an expiry date. They eventually settle and the contract ends. On the other hand, perpetuals have no expiry date. They can be held indefinitely. Everything else is largely the same. Spot trading lets you own Bitcoin. Futures trading lets you trade Bitcoin's price through a contract. Leverage increases your exposure. Margin acts as a collateral. Liquidation happens when that collateral becomes insufficient. And perpetuals are simply futures contracts that never expire and use funding rates to stay close to the spot price. Once you understand these concepts, you have understood the foundation of crypto derivatives. This is Web3 Jatin signing off. See you in the next one. Till then, keep building.